Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're all doing well. Before we get into today's video, I do just want to say if you do enjoy the content that you see, please do consider hitting that subscribe button down below and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss a new video whenever I drop it. So, I made a post on YouTube a couple of weeks ago talking about how I'm a big advocate for, physical media and stuff like that, and here I am finally talking about it. So, as you can see, I'm on my PlayStation homepage. It says I'm offline. So that's because I am taking part in the PlayStation Blackout that is going on this week between the 23rd and 30th or 31st, something like that. I know it probably won't mean anything at the end of everything, but as someone who's been a gamer for over 24 years at this point, I have to stand up for this. And I'm going to get into a little bit of personal stuff to explain my reasoning, so to speak. A big part of the reason why I'm advocating for physical media as much as I am is because as a kid, a lot of the times growing up, video games were all I had. You know what I mean? I didn't really have many friends. I didn't have really a great relationship with a lot of my family members. So video games were, of course, my default coping mechanism slash, comfort zone, whatever you want to call it, as a child. And honestly, late into my teen years as well, and even somewhat into my adulthood. I'm 28 years old. Like I said, I've been gaming for over 20 years. And say I was 20 years younger, right? And say this video was like 20 years in the future, and you mean to tell me that Spider-Man, TFT's a live service game that doesn't count, but Spider-Man, Power World, Elden Ring, Black Ops 2, Sparking Zero, like all these games I have installed that I can play and have access to. If you would mean to tell me that if I was a kid in today's day and age and one day I could just wake up and I wouldn't have access to any of these games simply because I purchased them digitally and not physically, I mean, that's terrible. And I understand that there's a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, well, digital only is the future and blah, 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 blah. It is like, I mean, sure, maybe that's the case. But you also have to stop and think about how it would have felt when you were a child if you would have grown up without games, right? Or if you would have woken up one day, turned on your console, your PlayStation, whatever, and you just couldn't play your games anymore. Think about that. And I want you to think about, as you're sitting here and consuming these products just mindlessly without any thought, any rhyme or reason, I want you to think about your kids as well, potentially, if you're a parent. Do you want them to grow up with being able to only play a game for a year? And then that game is revoked from them. Say this is a 5-year-old kid. Say, they buy their parent buys Spider-Man 3 day one, right? Which it's a crying shame because that game's not going to have a physical release. But say that parent buys Spider-Man 3 day one, after 6 months to a year, they shut it down. That's a core memory in that person's childhood, right? In that kid's childhood, in that kid's growth and development, Spider-Man, a game, obviously they're going to hold it close to their hearts because it's going to be a good memory from their childhood, right? And it would suck if they had to grow up without access to that game. In the years preceding forward in their lives, it would suck if they couldn't revisit the game. Because I think that's one of the best things as a gamer, especially in this day and age, is being able to go back and play older games and, kind of see, just go back and, relive memories. You know what I mean? For me, that's a really pivotal and important thing as a gamer, is being able to kind of reminisce and be a little bit nostalgic. Not necessarily nostalgic as in, oh, this game is perfect and was perfect and it's still perfect. No, but it's just, if I went back and played a couple of PS2 games, it would make me a little bit emotional because for me, games were all I had a lot of the time throughout a lot of my life. Maybe not all I had, but they were a main piece in keeping me sane and making sure that I could feel okay even for a few moments at a lot of points in my life, And again, just going back to Spider-Man 3 not having a physical release, that sucks, man. Because, before anything else, for me, there was Spider-Man, right? My grandfather introduced me to it when I was a child, and ever since then, Spider-Man's been there for me, man. He's helped me shape myself into a better adult, into a better person, be a bit more selfless, kind of think about others when maybe I'm thinking a bit too much about myself, being too selfish. You know, Peter Parker's prime example of the best of humanity. And I get he's a fictional character, I understand that completely. But if I wasn't able to grow up with Spider-Man games, and Spider-Man in general, I mean, I know, like, you know, there's fucking 80, 60, yeah, 60 years of Spider-Man backlog and catalogs and stuff like that, comic books, you know, shows, movies. But the point of this is it's good to own a piece of art that means something to you. It's good to own, like, that's, you can't just give me something digitally, like through a digital license that can be revoked at any time, and have me personally sit here and be okay with it. And I know a lot of people who are watching this video are going to empathize and feel the exact same way that I do. Because, yeah, they're just video games, but at the same time, maybe at some point in your life, or in someone you know's life, that video game was all that got them through that point in their life where they were at their, you know, they were in the darkest of times, you know? That's why this is important. That's why we can't let this just happen. As consumers, we need to vote with our wallets. We need to start thinking before we just mindlessly purchase something else via Sony, because because it's not right. It's not okay. You know what I mean? The fact that they're trying to monopolize everything and take away physical media in less than 2 years, by the way. In less than 2 years, it's essentially a year and 4 months away at this point, 3 months. Are we really going to be okay with that as gamers? Are we really going to be okay with our sons and daughters waking up and seeing their games taken away from them when they just had access to them yesterday, when they could just play them yesterday? Are we really going to sit here and be okay with that? Because if our kids don't have games, I mean, I know there's other ways to relax as a child, but say your child actually likes video games, say they develop like a sort of special interest for it or whatever, and then one day they just can't develop that interest anymore or enact upon, you know, the wants to play a game, you know, to mentally relax, to mentally unwind. And there's a lot, and it goes way deeper than that too, right? Because there's a lot of stuff you can learn from art. Art is everywhere. Everything is art. Okay? And one of the main mediums of art is video games. And when you start revoking access to that, you start revoking access to something that is vital in a lot of people's lives, especially children. Because maybe something you forgot to teach them, a video game can then step up and do it for you. I'm not saying that video games should parent your child. What I am saying is that we can't all do it ourselves. Right? We can't just always help our child relax. I'm not a parent. I don't want to sit here and try to pretend I know what I'm talking about. I'm mainly speaking from my own experience and then kind of like repurposing that into a what if scenario. We can't always comfort our kids. We can't always comfort people we care about, you know what I mean? Sometimes they just have to do it themselves in their own way. And sometimes video games are that. That's exactly what video games are. Look, if you're someone who's just going to continue, you know, consuming digital games or whatever, I have nothing against you, right? I understand. I've bought a lot of digital games myself. I'm not innocent in this. I'm not, you know, 100% without blame, so to speak, in this scenario. But, you know, ever since Sony announced the news of shutting down like all disc production in 2028, I have voted with my wallet, literally. I mean, you know, a lot of you guys who are going to be watching this, you know me as the first Descendant YouTuber. Almost every piece of caliber that I've purchased since that announcement has been through Steam and not through the PlayStation Store. There's been a couple of instances where I'm like, okay, you know, like $5, whatever. But for the most part, it has all been via Steam because I don't want to financially look like I'm supporting this anymore, because I'm not, right? Like I just can't sit here as a gamer and I don't know. I just, like, for me, I mean, this is a huge part of who I am, you know, and I know a lot of you can say the same thing, right? Like, we're all gamers. Like, if you're watching this video, you're a gamer. No, I'm not gonna fucking say, oh, like, just because you play this specific type of game means you're not a gamer. I'm not like that. Like, you play whatever you want, you enjoy what you want. Art is subjective, and there's tens, if not hundreds of thousands of games for us to choose from, right? So, but I do want you to at least sit there and kind of consider what you're doing. Even if you don't change your mind, I at least want you to sit there and think about it. Think about the potential repercussions that it could have if you just sit there and mindlessly consume over and over and over and over and over again. Right? I mean, then again, you know, I know a lot of gamers, they don't buy new games. I know that not everyone buys every shiny new game the second it comes out. I know a lot of us have backlogs that we can play and enjoy without having to worry about games for years to come. But yeah, I had to put, you know, sit down and make this video and put my foot down and announce once again that I am taking part in the PlayStation Blackout. Like I said, I don't think it's going to do much, but this is just me standing up for what I believe in more than anything else. You know, I doubt it's going to change anything on Sony's end, but you got to stand up for what you believe in, man. You have to. Alright, I think that's about it. Thank you for watching. Comment down below if you agree. Comment down below if you disagree. Please be respectful in the comments, though, towards me and towards others. And we can talk about it. But, yeah. Thanks for watching. And I will see you in the next one.